Well, welcome. This is Dr. Joe Conner, the Conner Bubble, and we're so happy that you can join us. This is the first program that we're taping for 2012, and it's going to be a great year in 2012. We're going to have some challenges, but I think we're going to have to make the most of it. Also, this is the same day that the president is talking about the State of the Union. You won't see this program until well after that. But we want you to know, just like President Kennedy says, ask not for what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And so we have two special guests in the program today. Mr. Lloyd T. Williams, who's been a guest here a number of times, and he's going to be talking about his project with Jacques Bullard, the first African-American fighter pilot in World War I, and his many exciting life activities. We'll be learning a little bit more about what the project is developing, what Lloyd is working on. And a new friend for the Conner Bubble is Miss Joy E. Guerrero, who was introduced to me by a friend of mine in my Sunday school class, Mike, who's a mutual friend, and we're going to learn more about her passion to work with children. And I think you're going to love the program. We have some video segments we're going to loop in and learn about what's going on and what you can do to help the children of the world and also children in your neighborhood. First, we're going to start with Lloyd, bring us up to date on what he's been doing in his many projects. Lloyd, welcome back to the Conner Bubble.
Thank you for having me back again. Love coming here.
And I'm glad to see you. Tell me, what have you been doing?
Well, I think when you said ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, that was a great segue into what I'd like to talk about right now. Now, my project is called Eugene Bullard, an American in Paris, which is the story of the first African-American fighter pilot to fly for the French and fight in the French Foreign Legion back in 1916 during World War I. And many of us don't know about him, which is why I took on the project, and I've written a 4-part miniseries on his life, and I'm currently planning on producing it this year as a television program initially, trying to get it picked up by some of the local cable companies and maybe even BET as a weekly episodic. Mm-hmm. Now, I could go that way, or I could go 4-part miniseries style, such as for HBO, Showtime, one of those networks, or as a full-fledged feature film. So I've written it in all the genres, and I'm ready to go in whatever direction I need to go in. Okay. And obviously there are many, many challenges in trying to get a film produced in California or anywhere. Right. It's like pulling teeth. It's a very, very big challenge. Right. And right now in the movie theaters is Red Tails, which is a fantastic movie, which is the story of the Tuskegee Airmen, which is produced by George Lucas. And his was a long time in the making, this project. It's taken him 6-7 years to produce it, and he spent $60 million of his own money.
How much?
60. $60 million? $60 million of his own money. So that still gives me confidence to know that I'm on the right track, and it's not something that comes overnight. And so the confidence that comes from having to work very hard on that. Right. And the Tuskegee Airmen are basically a talented group of pilots who fought during World War II. And the battles over in Germany and in Africa. And these guys were just basically normal Americans who were businessmen, family men, just everyday Joes who basically rose to the call to serve their country and became heroes on the platform during the war. These guys they flew, the African-American, all of them were African-American squadron, and they flew more battles than any other squadron during World War II. They flew over 1,500 missions during World War II. And they actually even sunk a battleship with bullets alone. No bombs, bullets. They sunk a battleship. These dudes were bad. And they actually shot down jet planes, German jet planes with propellers. They shot them down out of the sky. Yeah. You know, so
that was fantastic when you saw that in the movie. It was really cool. So you're going to be able to keep us posted on the different things, different projects as you're going, because we'd like to have you back to talk more about that, and also as we interact with Joy to hear more about what she's doing. Is there anything particularly that you want the audience to take action on, to be aware of?
Basically to know that there's so many fantastic stories in our history books that in our history always repeats itself. We're human beings. We're there to showcase our talents. God has given us talents to share and to put forth into the world. And we all have gifts to give, and we want to share those gifts. And whatever it is, we have a job to do, and that's to share these gifts that we have.
Now that's really good, because what's going to happen is, as we're talking about grown men and talking about the Tuskegee Airmen and Jacques Bullard and World War I, we're going to talk about cranking the clock back a little bit earlier. We're going to talk about children, and we're going to talk about the children and how the children are important and they have gifts. And our next guest, Joy Garrido, is going to tell us what her passion is to make sure that more and more children have a chance to share their gifts with the world. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, and why I'm so happy to have both of my guests here, because we can see the different extremes and what will happen if we work together to protect our little ones. Joy, welcome to the Connor Bubble.
Thank you.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your ministry. It's called With God's Marvelous Light.
Light.
Okay.
Yes, I worked in the psychiatric field for many years.
Okay.
And I saw a lot of kids that were just so abused and abandoned. And they were put in facilities instead of giving this nurturing. It was such a negative environment for them. And I knew something else had to be done for those children. And I started researching about the reality for so many little ones around the globe, but even here in America. So I decided to start my own nonprofit. I decided to also to look up what it would be the name for it. And I wanted something that would enlighten people. It's God's marvelous light. It enlightens them about what is going on with these little ones. And it's found in 1 Peter 2:9.
Okay.
And
this also reminds me of, I use a DVD of Temple Grandin. When you're talking about institutionalizing, and she is a perfect example of a person who made tremendous changes in our society. If someone had not taken her mom, had her tenaciousness of her mom, we would not have her talent. And what you're saying about so many young people, that you're trying to say that the world will not lose the talent of these young people before they even have a chance.
right.
Okay.
And these little ones are gifted. They have characteristics that God gave them, but they were snuffed in that way about being creative. They couldn't, they were on medications. They were heavily medicated in that way, but confined.
Okay.
And I saw it as such a loss. And these children needed the nurturing and, of course, the counseling to come out of that realm. But then on another level, we have children that are in households everywhere. And in our country alone, it's tremendous. There are over 3 million cases reported of just abuse.
And that's just the United States.
That's just the United States, and that's per year. Every 10 seconds, a report is made about abuse. But experts agree that the problem is 3 times that.
Interesting.
Because it's not reported.
Right.
Those are just reported cases.
Now you have brought some video clips to share with us. The first one sort of ties in when we're talking about the uniqueness of the individual, how God created people with certain talents and stuff, and how it's global in nature. Is that correct?
Right.
And so what I'd like to do, if the engineer's about ready, we'd like to see the segments, about 6 minutes or so, and you're narrating, giving us some perspective on the gifts that people have. And the
Yes.
value. So when we come back, I'd like to share with us what is it that you want the audience to do.
Okay.
So when our team is ready, you can show the video clip.
The God of the universe created our beautiful planet and placed each one of us here for a purpose. What purpose it is for each one of us is so individual and so personable that only the Creator knows how special we each one really are. Not even a single cell has been overlooked by him. He gives us our talents, parents, traits, personalities, and the space in our hearts that always yearn for something, and that something or someone is him who wants us to love him and appreciate what he has done in giving us life. Think of the possibilities that come from an omnipotent God when he decides the variables that will determine our life on this planet. Just take a moment and think of all the aspects of your life and contemplate the awesome love that comes from a loving Father above who made you. As each scene and the beauty of our earth open up to you of how wonderful God is in our surroundings, then we can look at how fascinating each movement of our bodies is, to be able to see with our eyes, hear with our ears, move our muscles and bones with the nerves that control each movement, which is monitored by the brain just as by a thought to do so. It is amazing. Our freedom to be who God has created us to be is also such a privilege and an honor given us by him. He says in Daniel 5:23, he holds our breath in his hands. Imagine if that freedom just to breathe or live was taken away by a surgeon's hand, or a guardian who took your life or killed your spirit to live just because they could and you were too weak or too small to fend for yourself. It happens every single minute of every day in our country, as well as other nations around the globe. There is heartache and pain in every corner of our homes, neighborhoods, nations, and our larger home planet Earth. The epidemic of child abuse, neglect, and abandonment is so underestimated and comes in countless forms that experts agree it is at least 3 times greater than reported. 3 million reports of abuse is made each year at a rate of every 10 seconds, and these are cases that get reported in America alone. A baby and toddler of ages 0 to 3 are the most likely to be abused than at any other age. They are easy targets as to size and have more needs and cry to show those needs, and are just curious, and they are learning cause and effect to their surroundings. Most are target children who take the brunt of an adult or larger individual's rage displaced against them. Abuse is as a result of a multitude of causation factors, such as wars, especially the battles fought within a child's own home, sex slave trade, pornography, alcohol and other drug use by parents and guardians, physical, sexual, psychological, emotional, and yet all of these forms result in emotional stress, coping disorders with mental and emotional delays, as well as social dysfunctions and maladaptive behaviors. 4 children die every day, and there are many, many more who are maimed for life and will be developmentally challenged as a direct result of the abuse. Matthew 18:6 states, "But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." Abortion ranks high in killing our unborn, when in Psalms 127:3 states, "Behold, children are a gift from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward." Yet in China and India select by sex and number of births, determining who will live or who die before birth. And methods to destroy and murder these little ones is horrifying. An unborn baby in every trimester in the womb is aborted, which is murder, every few seconds around the world. In China, they drown a newborn of even 9 months pregnancy in a bucket the second it is birthed, just because the number of its birth as a second pregnancy is not permitted. But God created that little one. How do we know? Because it is alive. It is a creation of not just earthly parents, but God creates each one of us before we are born. David writes in Psalms